Hi, welcome. There are a few life-changing menopause symptoms that don't get talked about near enough, and vaginal atrophy, also referred to as genitourinary syndrome of menopause, is definitely one of them. It's experienced by a large number of late peri and postmenopausal women and can greatly affect quality of life. So let's talk about 7 symptoms of atrophy and how to treat it so you can tame the discomfort, because it can be quite horrible. Vaginal atrophy is the result of declining estrogen levels, most commonly during menopause, but can occur for other reasons as well. It causes the vaginal lining to become thin, dry, and less elastic, and can result in a list of symptoms, all of which are unpleasant. Let's start with pain and discomfort because it's one of the most noticeable and alarming changes. It can take the form of burning, soreness, tenderness, picking sensations, and even throbbing. I've dealt with it myself, and at its worst, it felt like I'd been kicked by a horse square in the lady bits. It's pretty hard to concentrate on anything else when you feel like that. It can be almost torturous. Related to that is dryness. And I don't mean just slap some lotion on it dry. I'm talking about completely desert dry in an area that's not meant to be, and it can cause a great deal of soreness and itchiness. Even walking and sitting can cause discomfort. In fact, almost anything making contact with the area can be horribly miserable, which brings me to number 3, pain with intimacy. Many women describe it as loss of libido, but it's way more than that when it comes to atrophy. It just plain hurts. The tissue in the area is so fragile and dry that relations can actually cause micro tears, inflammation, and bleeding, and leave women incredibly sore for days afterward. It's very upsetting, especially for women who want their intimacy back. Atrophy can also affect the urethra and cause frequent UTIs, or all of the feelings of a UTI when you don't actually have one. I always have UTI test strips in the house so I don't make unnecessary trips to the doctor, because who has time for that? It can also cause a heavy, uncomfortable feeling when the bladder is full and result in leaks because the urethra is thinner and more fragile. Treating vaginal atrophy often improves bladder symptoms as well. In addition to UTIs, atrophy can also increase the risk for infections like BV and yeast issues. The pH is altered when estrogen falls, leaving you much more vulnerable to infections. The microbiome changes as well, and having less protective bacteria only contributes to the problem. Number 6 is pressure. A heavy feeling in the pelvic area or lower abdomen that is unrelated to a prolapse or a UTI. It's not always painful, but it's terribly uncomfortable and can definitely disrupt your day and cause some concern. Random spotting can also be a problem. The tissue becomes so delicate that inflammation and tearing can quite easily occur, and those tiny micro tears and irritation can lead to bleeding. It can be confused with postmenopausal bleeding and cause a great deal of worry. And for good reason. Every one of those symptoms are just terrible, and I feel for all of you coping with this. Obviously, finding a treatment is top priority. There are a few options. The number 1 go-to solution is low-dose vaginal estrogen, because it will restore the tissue at least partially and reverse the atrophy to some degree, and the UTIs in many cases. It's a small localized dose of estrogen and doesn't carry the same risks as HRT, so it's a very good choice for many women. I will say that it's important to make sure that the estrogen cream you're using is fragrance-free, because it can cause a great deal of irritation. It happened to me. Also, even when you begin using a fragrance-free estrogen cream, it's still possible to experience some irritation until the tissue toughens and becomes healthier. It took a few weeks for me to stop having a slight burning sensation from the cream. I just used it sparingly and eventually felt better. I still have the occasional flare, but nowhere near what I went through before treatment. HRT is also helpful for atrophy, so those who have decided to use hormone replacement may also see an improvement to their atrophy discomforts. It's not an option for everyone though, and it's not localized, which is why low-dose vaginal estrogen is the number 1 choice. For those not wanting to use estrogen, moisturizers and lubricants can help combat dryness in the area and alleviate some of the discomfort, but it won't restore the tissue. Still, it does provide temporary relief of some of the symptoms. Remember, the simpler the better. The tissue is very sensitive, and unnecessary ingredients can cause more discomfort. Increasing blood flow to the area can also help. If intimacy isn't an option for obvious reasons, exercise, especially those used to treat the pelvic floor, can be useful. Of all the possible symptoms and changes that can manifest in peri and postmenopause, vaginal atrophy is one of the worst in my opinion. I'm sorry if you're experiencing it and all of the symptoms that come attached. I wish health, happiness, and peace of body and mind for each of you, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.